Alright, today I would like to talk about my budget camping setup. From conversations I've had with people who have not gone camping yet, I think they're a little bit apprehensive with the amount of gear that they think they need to buy and the cost associated with that. And what I want to show today is that you don't have to buy a ton of gear and you don't need to spend a lot of money to get out there and go camping. Let's check this out. This kit is intended for motocamping or motorcycle camping, but you could just as easily take it car camping, and only being about 15 pounds of gear without food and water, you could take a few things out. You could probably carry this in a backpack for a while also. I'm going to be showing this. I have this in a top box for one of my motorcycles, but if you're using this for car camping, you could just as easily put it in an action packer or Tupperware box or something like that. Now, if you don't have boxes or panniers for your motorcycle, that's okay. You can just use a basic duffel bag to put the gear in and lash it to the back of your motorcycle. Or a backpack. Works just fine. Alright? Now, some of the things in here you might have to substitute depending on your location, the temperature, and your comfort level being out in the elements. So you want to kind of look into that and plan for that accordingly. Alright, I think that's it. I've got some notes here to stay on track. We'll get through this as quick as possible. If you've got questions, leave them down in the comments leave them down in the comments below. Like I said, everything I'm going to talk about today fits in my top box pretty easily. It's a fairly compact, simple kit. First thing is the sleeping bag. Now you can spend a lot of money on a sleeping bag. Small, compact, down-filled bags can be fairly expensive. Luckily, we're talking about a warm weather kit. Something lightweight like this works just fine. I picked this up on sale at a local sporting goods store for about 30 bucks. And it works just fine when the temperatures aren't too cold. Now, depending on your comfort level, you may need to either spend more money for a smaller one, or you're just going to have to deal with a little more bulk. But you can see which brand this is. I've had this for about 8 years. It's worked just fine. And the weight on it is 1 pound 14 ounces. Next up, I've got this small dry goods bag. I just keep dry food, snacks, emergency food in here. Any small bag or container will work. Not a big deal. Got kind of the heart of the kit here is the kitchen. Now this is a little kind of duffel bag that I had a family member make for me. I've got some stove fuel and a couple cooking pots. Now, depending on what you cook and all that, you can change this around. This is just the basics. I've got this small titanium pot. You don't have to have a titanium one. This was a gift, so a small aluminum pot. You can go to the second-hand store and spend $1 on a small pot and cut the handle down if you need to. This was a part of a larger kit that it cost maybe $8–10. Inside the pot, I've got a small folding cup. I've got my small stove. This is another thing. Shop around for a good deal, and you can find a good deal online. A small butane stove that fits on here. I've had this one for about 15 years. Works good for quick meals if I'm not trying to get fancy. And I've got my GSI Java drip. This is a pour-over coffee setup. You just clip it on to your cup. Put your grounds in here, pull the coffee over. If you want to see this stuff in use, I just released a video where I'm actually using all of this gear on a camping trip. That's the kitchen, pretty simple. Next up, I guess this is my catch-all bag or junk bag. I carry a small water filter with me because you never know. This is the Sawyer Mini Squeeze, pretty reliable little system. In the bottom of this bag, I have some tie downs. This kind of stuff is always handy for all sorts of camp needs and tasks. You don't necessarily need it, but when you need it and don't have it, you'll know it. Alright, so inside here I've got all the small odds and ends. It's my coffee container. I've got some soap. Got a small lantern. This is the Yuko Sprout. Spare batteries for that. Got some pain reliever. Get a headache or sore back, shoulders, whatever. I've got some utensils. These were gifts. You don't necessarily need fancy ones. Just get a spoon and fork out of your kitchen. It'll work just fine. But these are nice. They collapse down. Toothbrush, toothpaste, seasoning for food, a lighter, small folding knife for camp chores, and also I've got a little list here. A few additional items I consider necessities. I try to keep on my bike at all times. Bug spray. Warm weather, bugs are going to be out. Sunscreen. Sunburn is no fun. You could make a trip miserable. And toiletries. Ideally, we want to return home with all the t-shirt sleeves and socks that we left with. These items aren't in here because I keep those 3 items on my bike at all times. A couple tips. These little mesh bags are great. This one came with my stove. I like them because you can see what's in there, and they're lightweight. They dry fast if they get wet. And again, I've got another bag that I had made for me. Next up is a simple tarp. This is made by Etowah Gear. I bought this a long time ago. It wasn't exactly cheap. You can spend as much or as little on a tarp as you want. I like this one. It's kind of a mid-priced one. I don't even know if this company's still in business, but you can use it for a ground cloth, keep rain off of you. You can use it for shade, any number of things. I like having a reasonably heavy-duty tarp with me, and not being a plastic tarp, it's fairly quiet if it's windy. Not much else to say on that. I also carry this like button with me. These are great because they let me know that you enjoy the video, or maybe you don't. But either way, a little bit of feedback is always appreciated. Next up is a sleeping mat. It's another no-name item. Budget. Paid $30-35 for this about 10 years ago. It's still going pretty strong. It's a heavy-duty one with a fabric covering. It's very comfortable, and I've had no issues with it. A tip with your sleep system is you want to use it before you take it on a long trip. Nothing worse than going on a trip with sleep gear that just doesn't work or is defective. So roll it out in your living room floor and do a camp out like you were a kid again. Next we have the tent. This is one of those items you can spend a lot of money on. You can get real fancy and real carried away. Now I'm not saying this is the best tent. This is just one that I picked up about 10 years ago to take on a trip. It's a junior sized Ozark Trail dome tent. I don't even know if they make these anymore. Paid $16 for it. It is on its last leg, but I've gotten my $16 out of it. It only weighs 3 pounds. It's fairly lightweight, but it's not exactly waterproof. That's why I carry a tarp. And it's budget, but it works. It gets me out there. And at some point I'll probably replace it, but you don't need to get too fancy. Now for a bit of a luxury item. It's a small folding little compact chair. Bought this a number of years ago, again, just for motorcycle camping. It's very nice to be able to sit down to eat and to relax in the evening, especially if you're riding a motorcycle or packing in. It's kind of heavy to backpack, but if you're only going a short distance, it's definitely worth it. I like having something with a back that I can lean up against. Keeps you off the ground if there's bugs or mud or dust. Anyways, a little luxury is always nice. Alright, the last thing I actually have on this list is just a spare pair of socks. Now you can carry as much spare clothing as you want. Typically for me, for just an overnighter in warm weather, I can always find room for a pair of socks. Nothing like slipping on a nice dry pair of socks before you go to bed. So that's my kit. This is my basic weekend kit for warm weather. Some things you can add to this that I would consider adding is a fishing kit or entertainment if you like doing like the handheld gaming stuff, or maybe some books, crossword puzzles, things like that. Maybe a small barbecue grill. That's always nice to have if it's allowable. And maybe a hammock for lounging around, relaxing. On some of this gear, I received some of this gear as gifts, and some of this I was fortunate enough to find it on sale. So if you can't find this exact stuff, just get the closest thing you can. The main idea is don't let the overwhelming price or amount of gear that sometimes you see people using holds you back from getting out there and going camping, because it's more about being out there than what you're taking with you, in my opinion anyways. So let me know in the comments what you take, if you change anything in here, and I guess until next time, I will see you in the next one. And again, if you want to see this kit in use, I will link that video up here on a card and down in the comment section. Alright, now get out there. See you in the next one.